Good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's evening session at Young Leaders Council, AIMA, on tech opportunities and emerging trends. And today we are very fortunate to have with us Pranav Pai, who is in fact one of the, I would like to say, founding fathers and initial patrons of Young Leaders Council. And as a fellow youth leader, I really look up to him and admire him, what he's done for Young Leaders Council and in general with his deep support in the ecosystem of startups and venture capital. And he's a force to reckon with. And we are extremely privileged to have him with us today. Uh, he needs no introduction, but for the wider audience today, he's the founding partner and chief investment officer at 314 Capital. For those of you who don't know 3104 Capital, it's one of the largest and emerging seed and venture capital firm with companies you've heard like Licious, Darwin Box, Better Place, Jupiter. They say that whoever, wherever Pranav is on the cap table, the odds of you becoming a unicorn and doing well in life is substantially increases. So I'm sure all of you stand to learn a lot today from his nuggets of wisdom. We are extremely privileged to have you with us, Pranav. Thank you for taking out time. A huge shout out and welcome to you in today's session.
Thank you, Karthik. Very kind of you. I hope I live up to the the introduction.
Sure. And the way we're going to do it is Pranav wants to run a small presentation for 15-20 minutes where he's going to capture many of the questions which you guys have sent us before this session in terms of what are the new trends, AI, ML, ESG, what kind of trend spotting can you do in technology world today in India and globally. And he's going to talk about from his experience of making so many investments and making them work. So over to you, Pranav. Let's start with your presentation and then we'll get into conversation more in 20 minutes.
Thank you, Karthik. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see your screen. Yeah.
Great, great. Great. So thank you, Karthik. Thank you, everyone. It's fantastic to see the Young Leaders Council grow so large. Like Karthik mentioned, I was involved very early on in 2018, 2019, when the idea was just getting started. It's a terrific community, and I hope a lot of us will get a chance to meet and engage more in the coming future. So what I prepared here are a set of slides just to give you an idea of three very simple things. In front of our eyes, how tech is reimagining the narrative of the future of our species. And I use my words very carefully. When I say species, some of the things that are in development today, you've seen, for example, AI and robotics and so on. I want to give you a sense of when these technologies come together, because today they're all different lanes innovating differently. When they all synthesize, when they all come together, the reality that is coming very shortly in front of us is a little bit strange. It's a little bit worrisome. I don't know how to respond to it, and therefore I have more questions than answers. But I want to walk you through a little bit of what is coming. That's very important. Second is I will walk you through where India is today, and we have a lot to be proud of. We've had a very difficult time as a country since independence. We've dealt with a lot, but I think we're finally getting a lot of our agendas together to make sure that prosperity is something we can all share and all participate in. And then I will close with some very recent examples of success in startups. What do they look like? Why are they successful? What does the end state of a startup look like? Who are the investors? How do they invest? So I'll give some practical case studies of what we are seeing. I think 20 minutes, I'll try to wrap up everything as much as fast as possible, but those are the three broad areas I've prepared slides for today. So I'll get started with the most recent case study we can all kind of think about and discuss, which is COVID-19. All of us lived through COVID-19, which is why we are here today. All of us know people who didn't. It's unfortunate. While every country on the planet faced COVID at the same time, it is maybe the most academically investigated real-time worldwide case study, more worldwide than even the world wars, because honestly, the world wars were just Europe's problems. So we can look at every country's response to COVID in different ways. How from emergency services to oxygen to other services for people in distress. But the whole world had only one thing in common when it came to a COVID response, which is every central bank on the planet printed an absurdly large amount of M1 and M2 money supply, to the point where I think we are now at 19 trillion. I've not updated this slide for a while, but $19 trillion of global stimulus, M1 and M2 money supply, was printed into existence. Even India, you'll see here, I think we touched almost 300 billion. It's the single largest exercise of stimulus, central bank-led stimulus in the world's economic history. Now, when so much money is printed, all of us know how money works. Eventually, it finds its way in the market. And we're not surprised that if you look at the stock market as not a place where you can make or lose money, but as a voting engine of the world's investors thinking what will work in the future and what won't work. So a buy is a vote in favor of a stock, a sell is a vote against. You see the whole world shorted every airline in the US, for example. And stocks like Zoom, the platform we are using today, were thought to be the future of correspondence and communication worldwide. And a lot of you will remember the narratives during 2020, 2021 that there'll never be an airline again. Why will anyone fly to meet anyone again? Zoom will be the future for everything. Obviously, since then, Zoom has corrected. It has fallen 90%. World airline passenger volumes are breaking new records. The world is traveling with a vengeance we could not have imagined before. So what I want to show you is the response to events today are in seconds, in minutes, not days and weeks and months like it used to be. And therefore, the people who are investing in the world's markets, and I'm using the US stock market as an example because it's the largest market in the world. India is now the fourth largest equity market in the world. We just beat Hong Kong. Only US, China, and Japan are ahead of us. So we're almost 5 trillion. So very soon you will start seeing this kind of response to events happening in India as well. If some of you are tracking the stock markets in India the last 3-4 days, you would have seen a lot of this happening. 16%, 17%, 19% up and down, both directions, depending upon who was leading the live count on election day. So anyway, what I want you to take away from this is now because the world's markets are so tightly wound together, certain narratives on value and perceived value are so large and they are driving the markets so violently that today we are seeing value concentrating in a small number of companies like we've never seen before. In fact, this set of companies, they used to be called GAFA, then FANG, then it became Magnificent Seven, and then Netflix, the N was replaced by NVIDIA because AI now, and NVIDIA is now one of the fastest growing stocks in the world. So just in 3 years, you are seeing even the top 6-7 companies in the US index becoming irrelevant, becoming relevant, becoming a $1 trillion company, then doubling to $2 trillion. We are seeing response times in microseconds and algorithmic trading now causing earthquakes in the stock market every quarter. And now that's become normal. This is very abnormal historically, but now it's become normal. And therefore, we have to start getting used to this K-shaped recovery. I want you to remember this shape because irrespective of your personal beliefs, and this is a very important point, whatever I believe, you believe, all of us are active in the stock markets, whether daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever, even annually. All of us are participants in markets. It does not believe what your personal thesis or your personal beliefs are anymore. What matters is what markets believe, and therefore the movements of stocks and entire sectors, according to consensus market belief, now is so rapid that it's very hard to think that something is true today will remain true even 3 or 4 weeks later. So building long-term thesis now is extremely difficult. It's extremely difficult, especially in the public markets. And it all comes down to a simple truth that today, digitalization has transformed the whole world. A majority of the world, a majority of our species are now on the internet, are now on smartphones, are now on social media. And therefore, the composition of the world's most valuable companies, the market caps, the valuations, that has also fundamentally changed. If you look at the US stock market over 100 years, from 1917, if you look at this, none of these obviously no tech companies, steel, automobile, cement, oil, boring companies. 1967, you saw the first real tech company, IBM. Some of you may remember IBM mainframe and so on, used to be a big deal. The first tech company became the most valuable company in the US. That was a historic moment. But 2017, this is very recent. All of you remember 2017. And you may remember in the news, Apple was getting to $1 trillion. Everyone and their uncle was saying Apple is overvalued. You should short it. No company should be $1 trillion. This is impossible. Fast forward to today. I mean, this is 2022, 23, but remains largely the same today. We have companies that are $3.5 trillion in a single company in market cap. That's almost the entire GDP of India. Today, 9 out of 10 of the top companies in the US stock market are tech companies. Only Saudi Aramco is an exception, but you can argue it's an entire economy in a stock. And Berkshire Hathaway is no longer, an insurance company. It's basically an investor in the other 9 companies, the top 10, right? So tech has basically taken over the planet. It's taken over the species. It's taken over the stock markets. It's very clear now that tech is no longer the shiny toy in the corner of the spectrum. It is a fact of life every day. And we are seeing technology not only becoming a market cap stimulant, that is something fashionable to invest in and your PE becomes larger, it's also eating the profit leaderboards. More and more tech companies are now the most profitable companies on the planet, right? It used to be oil and cement and steel and all that. You've seen it before, but today oil, banks, insurance companies are all struggling to keep in pace with the sheer profitability of some of these large tech companies. And as these companies become larger and larger and they become global monopolies, some countries benefit more than others. And this we have to be very cognizant of. Today, the US runs the world's cloud. The US has more cloud capacity than the next 10 companies combined. This is a very scary thing to look at as an Indian citizen. President Biden has more access to your WhatsApp chats than Prime Minister Modi or the Supreme Court of India. And we have zero protection in the US. We are called non-resident aliens. We don't have any legal recourse if the United States' government infringes on our data rights and our privacy rights as citizens of India. So this has become a problem, and every country is going to respond to this differently. Some regions are losing very similarly. The US, of course, is winning because of its advantages, but the whole of the EU is now an aging digital colony. If you look at the world's most visited websites, only one website here is from the EU. It's not a very good one if you can read that far down. And therefore, we are living in a new world today, dominated by technology, by each of these big mega cap companies not being single product companies anymore. Apple is not just a phone manufacturer. It issues credit cards. It runs the world's largest music store. Google is not even called Google. It's Alphabet now, a literal alphabet conglomerate. They're building self-driving cars. They're building biotech companies. They're building their own Reliance Jio in the US called Google Fi, a virtual network, telecom network. And Amazon, of course, maybe the most comical example here, used to be only an e-commerce company. Today has a large cloud business, is building AI to run your home, is building home security cameras so they can let in their delivery boys without your permission. They're going to offline retail, buying grocery stores in every neighborhood in the US. So what we are seeing today in the US and increasingly in the rest of the world is that these large companies have coordinated with each other to capture every part of our digital day. Look at the mobile operating market. Two companies own all of it, and one clear large majority. Internet search, two companies, one absurdly large majority. Social media, two companies, again, one absurdly large majority. Cloud, a duopoly, and the third company is also American. Digital advertising, a duopoly, the third company is also American. So today, when we have this fear in India that, oh, there are very large competitors, this Indian company is too big, that Indian company is too big. Indian companies are minnows compared to the scale of some of these international conglomerates. They've really become too big to fail. And you can also see that they've become too big when you look at how much fines they pay. Some of them are paying 700, 800, $1 billion of fines every year. I'm not talking about revenue or profit, fines. Now it is a part of their budget that they are paying $500 million to $1 billion of fines every year. And every 2-3 years, we see Zuckerberg going into the US Senate, and we think that he got a slap on the wrists and something will change. Nothing changes. Everything stays the same. There's a big public spectacle about how he came on a Senate hearing and something happened, but nothing changes, right? So what we have to be very aware of is these big tech companies, and it's not just American, the Chinese companies are also simply trying to be a better version of the American companies. All of these large tech companies are now expansionist monopolies. These are the new East India companies, right? Let's be very clear. There is no doubt. We should all accept the truth. If some of you work for them, great. You're part of it. You should profit from it. If most of us don't work from it, we are the product. We are their customer. They are taking money from us. Now, all this sounds a little scary, and it sounds like all hope is lost. Why should we even bother to compete? But I want to remind you, even when all that happens and it's unfair and it's too big to fail, etc., you have strange companies like Airbnb. All of you would have heard of Airbnb by now, where in less than a decade, they became the world's largest hotel company without building a single hotel room. Think about that for a moment, right? Hyatt is a 90-year-old company. Hilton is a 70-year-old company. They have spent decades building hotels in every country in the world, hire people, train them, be nice in hospitality, speak English properly, etc., loyalty program, etc. Airbnb in 9 years didn't build a single hotel room, allowed anyone to put their spare bedroom on the platform as a room someone can sleep in, makes 30% of the cut from both sides because they are bringing new inventory to the market. And in less than a decade, they've gone public, $80 billion in the IPO, continues to scale out quite well. I'm reminding you that every time you think hope is lost, a weird company like Airbnb will become the next success, right? So this is what I call the chain of innovation. It will never stop. As a species, we are not used to taking today's status quo as granted. We want to challenge things. We want to challenge scale. We don't accept status quo. And that's the fundamental motivation for innovation. And I'm very happy to say I believe this will continue. We have new areas of competition, new technologies. All of you have been to college. None of you would have been taught any of this, but this is going to be the future of the platforms that we are building to create value going forward. Of course, if McKinsey uncle says it's true, it's probably true. So we should take that for granted. So the good thing is innovations aren't going to stop. Big companies are going to continue to be built. More competition is going to come into the market. And I want to show you now how technology is changing the fundamental basis of our evolution. So I spoke about Airbnb, and now Airbnb is using AI to figure out which neighborhoods, how many houses they can go to, which bedrooms they should open up. And this is scary because their inventory now is combined is more than the inventory of the next 5 large hotel chains globally, right? So now upstarts like Airbnb are no longer satisfied with their growth rate. They are now paranoid that they have to keep their growth going. And now they are going to the cutting edge of AI to make sure they continue to maintain their growth rate. Foxconn in China, a very interesting example, maybe the prototype example of how a Chinese company takes hundreds of millions of Chinese people from the farms into the manufacturing facilities, trains them to be the manufacturing engine of the world. But in 20 years, they've realized all these Chinese women, they have babies, they want holidays, they want maternity leave, they want pay raise, they want all these very fancy things in HR. But robots don't ask for anything, right? And that's a very interesting realization that China has made. After wave one of China being the prototype of success, put 100 million people from the farm into manufacturing. Now they are replacing all those 100 million people with robots. And robots work 24 hours a day, don't even need the lights on, don't ask for maternity, don't ask for any breaks. And today, Foxconn has consistently replaced 50,000 people in their manufacturing facilities every year. Very scary, but happening in real time in front of us. Now let's move to robotics. You've all seen these WhatsApp videos of these cute little dog-looking robots doing flips and somersaults and so on. Looks very entertaining. Something nice to talk about when you meet your friends in a party. But let's make no mistake, these are the soldiers of the future. They are going to fight wars. They are not as cute and safe as they are made out to be in those videos. All these robots are being trained with many degrees of dexterity to one day to be able to replace human beings in all the fields that we are active in. Let me show an example of war itself. If one day in the future we are fighting wars with robots, the human beings will need Iron Man suits so that we can be on a level playing field. The same company, Raytheon, is building both the robots and the Iron Man suit, right? So you are seeing, again, East India company, fund both sides, you profit from the war, you should make money from both sides. And I'm reminding you, in every example I'm going to show you now, you will have one moral reaction. Oh, this is not right. Your brain will also have an investor reaction. I should buy this stock, right? Both are true. Remember that. You should buy the stock and it's not right, but why not profit from it? That's an interesting question. Let's go to robotics in your house. And these are live examples. I'm not showing you anything in the future. The Amazon Home robot is already live. You can buy it in the US. The beta has gone live. Tesla has taken this human-looking robot live. I don't like it when they do yoga and all like this, but fine. And Samsung's kitchen robot, anyway, Japan and South Korea are running out of babies. They don't have enough population replacement. And women don't want to get married or work. Obviously, no one wants to do kitchen work. So there are more and more robots now being sold to replace human activity in front of us today in 2024. And let me also show you a very simple example of how far this goes. Now, Elon Musk is famous for many things. What maybe he is not as famous for, and he should be, is he's got a silent company called Neuralink working to put a chip in a human brain and allow you to control or speak to a robot just using your thoughts in real time, right? Today, they just got their first operation done. It is a human being controlling a computer. It's one way from the brain to the computer. What we're not being told is, can it also work the other way? Can the computer speak to the brain, and can it be a bimodal channel? So that's interesting, but this is something that's happening in real time, causes serious concern. And of course, maybe the most human thing of all, making babies. Even this is no longer outside of technology. A Chinese scientist 2 years back said he had helped 10 babies being edited by CRISPR be born successfully and be viable. If a Chinese scientist says 10 babies, they've probably done 10,000. You can't believe them. So this is also now no longer beyond reach. We are cutting technology into every aspect of what it is to be human. And this is causing some serious concern. So I will now take you into the extreme. How far can this go? And what should we be prepared for in the next 2 to 3 decades? Imagine in 25 to 30 years, if energy is free, that we don't pay for electricity anymore, right? And it sounds absurd, but already the world's largest solar farm, 2.7 gigawatts, is already live in India in Bhandla, Rajasthan. This is a big record. We should be very proud of this massive feat of engineering and something that is now becoming normal in India. We are taking hundreds and thousands of megawatts live every year. And this fusion reactor, not fission, fusion. So this is combining two hydrogen atoms into a helium atom. Fusion energy is now going to go live by 2025 in France. This magnet here is bigger than your house. It's the world's most powerful magnet to contain the fission field and so on. So what we'll see with fusion now, we can cover entire city's base load with one reactor, which means now we can finally replace coal, natural gas, and so on as the base load, not the alternative energy variable load. So this point that energy may actually be free and we may have some sustainable answers to energy at scale is a reality we're getting very close to. Imagine a future where expertise is free and every human being has a personalized AI tutor on demand, a personalized doctor on demand, a personalized robot nurse on demand. Suddenly, the things that we were constrained by are no longer constraints for every human being, right? And this opens up so many interesting business opportunities for specialist expertise to surround you, a specialist negotiator to help you buy your next house, a specialist tutor for your son trying to cram the 10th standard exam, a specialist lawyer for you to figure out some IP or that you're going to file. So imagine this, you are the center of your universe and all these robot moons are circling you, waiting for your next order to do something for you. And this labor point is not only software, it's also in the real world. Imagine where physical labor will be free. We're already seeing home robotics. I showed you that example of Samsung. We're already seeing construction robotics, and this is live in South Korea. So there is a very clear path to a future where labor is also free. Travel will be fast and autonomous. The first Mark V hypersonic plane engine is now live, and they are expecting to do the first flight in the next 3 to 4 years. And this is already live. Volkswagen announced its autonomous fleet of taxis somewhere in Germany. They're going to ship people around without needing human drivers. And one of the scariest things in Europe is that logistics and driver requirement is still the largest employer as a sector. If that also goes away, suddenly you have a real problem in the labor market. And now I go a little bit stranger. Imagine if every human being becomes a programmer. You don't need to learn JavaScript or C++ to tell a computer instructions. You can program in English or your mother tongue, and an AI will transliterate your instructions into code. You've all seen the Iron Man movie. Imagine if computing is around you. It's spatial. You can touch and feel and work with things in physical reality that you otherwise had to program and give instructions for. And then there's a weirder set of futures where AI agents swarm the internet. An AI agent is basically a self-encapsulated intelligence that has a specific task to run for you. And once you let it loose on the internet, strange things happen. Suddenly, it will browse news and give it to you, give you a summary. It will negotiate for you in some kind of product you're buying. It will find you the best deals. It will book your vacation for you. But what you can also do is a bunch of them can come together and become the most real AI-led cyber threats on your existence. They can steal your passwords, they can steal your bank account, they can do weird things to hack your personal life. So AI agents swarming the internet becomes a real threat. I spoke about wars before, but these robots are already going live in South Korea. They're going to patrol the borders. So wars with AI and robots is a very dramatic reality. Imagine if creators and gamers will also be AI first. This news anchor is already live on a Kannada news channel every Saturday evening. Today, we have all your children are addicted to video games, but imagine a world where there are more AI gamers than human gamers. So you have actually to pay a premium to game for the privilege to game with a human being. And now I can take this further and further, and I'm not making this up. There are actually startups working on this. But the brain-machine interface that Musk was working on, assume it becomes bi-directional and high bandwidth. And assume we can simulate entire realities virtually, like a Tron movie or the Matrix. And humans and machines therefore integrating and it becoming harder to be separate in terms of reality is a real event that is coming in the next 20 years. Of course, we will also make significant improvements in health. We will have N=1 personalized diagnosis. That means my cancer for my genetics, my body will be treated differently than yours. And of course, I think this is maybe the weirdest thing, but now it's given as truth. Every human being's genetic lifespan is 120 years. And now if we have genetic pre-selection before we are born, and we can 3D print organs and implants and make ourselves robust to live 120 years, you should assume you have no reason to die before you're 120. So in this very weird direction of the future, suddenly a food delivery company, another software company, another IT company, suddenly gets very boring. Suddenly you are very concerned that we are not building for this very weird future that we are seeing coming. We are building more of the same, more of the past, more of what is routine. And that's why I want to leave you with, yes, there is a lot of the big company activity happening and it's scary and they are monopolies. But also some of the technologies and the new opportunities coming are so strange that there's still room to innovate and build great large outcomes. So I have a lot of data now on India, which I will summarize just in 4 or 5 slides in the interest of time. All of you lived in India, all of you have seen the massive benefits we've gone through as an economy in the last 10 to 14 years. And we've done something remarkable, which we didn't think was possible. But since 1991, we have compounded at 8.24% a year in dollars to go from 275 billion in GDP to almost 4 trillion in GDP in 2024. So when everyone in the world is talking about India as the third largest economy, this is all true. This is all true. Historically, the 30-year CAGR that we have, we don't even need to grow at 8%. Even if we grow at 6.5 or 7, it is inevitable by the time CY 2028, 2029 rolls in, we'll be past 5.5 trillion. We will be the third largest economy. Only the US and China will be ahead of us. And this is a massive, massive moment in our economic history because we've all grown up with the narrative that India is poor, has too many people, cannot build anything, has to import, does not grow enough food, does not have a strong currency. But suddenly the narrative about India has flipped completely. And now it is about we're going to get big, we're going to be the third largest. So the mindset for us has to be of a hungry investor. We cannot be laden with the burdens of the past. We should think opportunistically. We should be a little bit more aggressive in our quest for beta. And we have to look at our own companies, our own startups, our own public companies as the builders of these solutions. Not just buy Facebook stock, Tesla stock, Google stock, whatever. Of course, buy Raytheon and so on. Like I said, if you want to. But we'll also have companies building these opportunities in India. And that's why I close with this slide that says digitization has transformed India completely. Today, we are amongst the largest internet populations on the planet. We have 800 million smartphones, 80 crore smartphones in India's hands. And the opportunity for innovation is not just food delivery and simple things that you are seeing in front of you every day. It is across sectors, it is across industries, it is top down, it is bottom up, it is horizontal, from e-commerce to tier 2 to B2B commerce. Again, I'm sorry, we are rushing through slides. But what I want to leave you with is that this opportunity is real. And it is something that has taken a long time to build, but it's finally here and something we should all think very hard to profit from. It's not going to be just startups who are going to be profiting from this. Even our largest companies like Reliance are completely focused on investing in building their own universe of technology and become a global conglomerate, just like Apple and Google and Amazon and so on. And this is good. This is great. We should compete. We should win. Our biggest companies should also not simply bow down and bend over and allow global companies to take over our market. It's not just Reliance. It's also Tata. It's also the Birla. It's also every HDFC, every single large company in India is thinking about how to own its ecosystem and become large and even larger. And of course, while big companies invest and figure out a lot of their technology strategies, our largest startups now are no longer just relying on VC and foreign funding. They're also becoming profitable and thinking about scale on their own. So companies like Zoho, one of the most profitable software companies in India, the founder famously holds his board meetings in his village house here, tells his board members, you fly here, I'm not flying to you. So the confidence now that we are seeing in India's innovators is truly remarkable. It's a big sea change to go from a time when our best people left India, became investment bankers or IT people in the US or wherever else. Now our best people stay back, build large companies, the world comes to them, which is very interesting. So I want to conclude by saying at 314, we are investing heavily in startups across sectors. Some of our largest companies are in software, in consumer, in B2B, in fintech. We are seeing opportunities across categories. It's been a good 8 years, 9 years for us. We have 4 unicorns. We've got companies that have raised close to $2 billion, around 16,000 crores in follow-on funding. And not just valuations and unicorns and so on. What I think is really surprising us is how quickly some of these companies are building revenue scale. Today, we have 4 companies that are past 100 million, which is a big number in USD, 800 crores of annual revenue. That is massive. These companies are 6 years, 7 years, less than 7 years old. But the way they have compounded and the way they become large is truly spectacular. This is not something we could imagine when we did the first round, when it was 2 guys in a laptop pitching an idea to us. what they've become from two guys in a laptop to 2,000 people and 120, 130 million in annual revenue is truly mind-boggling. And what I'm saying is, it's not just us getting lucky or us having some Midas touch. This is something that we're seeing across the startup ecosystem. And it's happening in every category, from consumer brands to logistics to fintech to electric vehicles, deep technology, agri-tech, robotics, EVs. We are seeing the world's best investors investing in Indian startups and working with them to become large and big value accretors. And now, today, finally, I think maybe the interesting thing to close with is, all of you as retail investors, you're not in the private markets, you may not be VCs and so on. You now have access to these companies every year. More and more of these companies are going public and are understanding how to work with the public markets in India and give investors a good experience even after they go public. Of course, we've had some bad examples like Paytm and so on, and that's fine. Companies learn, some companies don't never learn, right? That's fine. But most of these companies have taken the responsibility of going public very seriously. We've also finished our first tech IPO. It's been a very, very rewarding outcome for all of us. And today, if you see companies like Zomato and Mama Earth and so on, they've done very well to understand how to make public market standard guidance and then achieve it and win the trust and maintain the trust of the public markets. And if these companies continue to deliver the way they have, the outperformance that we have seen in the US, you will see the same outperformance in India. I bring your attention to this dark blue line. This is the startup index in India. It has performed as well, if not better, than the NASDAQ in the US, right? So finally, we have our own version of the NASDAQ index being built here, something all of you will have more access to as we go forward. So I conclude with this thing. It's been a very interesting few years for us to understand how the Indian tech opportunity has scaled. Like I said, I think the future is going to be a little bit strange, a little bit more weird. We'll have to build and prepare for many types of eventualities, and I hope we do it as a country. But of course, it'll be very exciting. There's a lot of innovation left to do. We are solving our own problems. We are going IPO. We are bringing value to the markets. So I think we are finally at a point where now, as the fifth largest economy, going to the third largest, we have optimized to empower problem solvers. Our only challenge is how fast we can become a 10 trillion economy, not if, which is great to hear as an Indian. So I think with that, I close my presentation. Happy to answer questions. Once again, thank you so much.
Thanks, Pranav. And as always, when you go through his presentation, it's a compressed encyclopedia. Even if you have not read anything in last 5, 7, 10 years, his presentations always, give you an excellent view, and it's so comprehensive. I'm sure, the time was less. Otherwise, if we gone through all those slides, it's a plethora of knowledge and very concise, very specific. So thanks, Pranav, for crystallizing so much in such a little time for all of us. And as you rightly said, it also raises more questions than it answers, which is always good to follow on the conversation. And I'm going to take some questions on behalf of our audience and myself as well. So one of the things which you mentioned here, Pranav, was that with all of these technologies and AI assistants and whatnot coming in, a lot of it is going to become democratized. So like even an average Joe would have access to the same level of technology, the same level of access, which was not available till now. So on one side, it's got a force multiplier effect. But on the other hand, how do, for example, many of us here are startups or SMEs, what kind of scope does it leave for differentiation? Because everybody, let's say today, I'll take a random example. Everybody is using, let's say, OpenAI plugins and GPT. Everybody has access to the same LLM. Nobody has the capability to build their own LLMs, right? And you see a bunch of or hundreds of companies who are just building something on top of it as a wrapper, and there is no true differentiation. Do you see that level of problem is going to become amplified because only, as you said, few companies are going to get concentrated in terms of real IP, real USP, and the kind of resources they have at disposal. So do you think rest of the other would be part of a normal distribution curve with no real significant USP?
Yeah, I think that's a big threat. It's a big problem also. I think this is something we've answered in every technology cycle. So some of you may have been alive when the whole operating system debate was happening in the US. Some of you may have read about it through whatever you were subscribed to. There was at one point a real challenge that how will Microsoft compete with IBM? How does it become a mainframe OS? Will it ever happen? but they didn't have to compete with IBM for mainframe. The personal computer revolution happened, and Microsoft became the default because there was no one else. And today we think of IBM not as a problem. It's not even in our mindshare anymore. Microsoft is the monopoly, too big to fail, etc., etc. Right? So imagine what happens as the next wave of computing platform, and what could it be? We at 314, we are not investing in any startups that are just another wrapper on top of someone else's model. We don't think there's any moat. We don't think those model building companies like OpenAI and the few other, the French one, Mistral and so on. We know some of these people. They are animals. They are cannibals. They will eat anything that is working on top of their platform, just like Microsoft, just like Google, just like Facebook. It is a very American culture, and that's a good thing. That's why they are the best in the world. That they don't allow things to grow on top of them, right? They want to be the top of the jungle. So I think we have to be very clear. If we are competing against giants, we cannot win on their rules on in their game. It has to be a new game. It has to be something that we build before they build, and it has to be with us having confidence that this is going to be a playground of the future. Our rules, our game. Therefore, let us move there fast, right? I think some companies hopefully will figure it out, but I think it will look like a new platform as the underlying basis of work to be done on top of, right?
Right.
So, in simple language, I don't think you will build a better Microsoft Office to compete with Microsoft Office. You will have to build an AI version that doesn't even, you don't even care where it's writing. It will basically follow your instructions and make up something for you. So, touchless Office, right, where you don't even look at the construction of the PPT or the Word file, but you are speaking to an AI that is a specialist in it. That's an example of the fundamental computing platform moving forward, right? So
Right.
you will actually argue that mobile was a step forward, was not the end state. Mobile was a step between PC and AI. That's how we will look at it 30 years later.
Got it. And the other leg of this conversation, Pranav, is that, and one of the audience members also asked that the impact it has on, human beings. I'm sure you've heard this in a lot of conversation that the job threat. I mean, there was a time when people said no new type of jobs would be created by AI, but now
Yeah.
we see leaders saying that no, the job threat is real. You will actually lose your job. What's your view on that, and what does it mean for an average person who's joining us, that how does their career path, if you're running a small medium enterprise today or you're working in a company, with AI being a real threat to higher cognitive based jobs as well, what kind of roadmap can an average person think through?
Yeah, I think that's the only place where we're a little pessimistic. Normally we see the very optimistic. They have to be to invest and wait for 10 years for something to work. But I am truly afraid that a lot of the, like, today's jobs giving livelihoods to people, and most of these jobs are not very demanding, right? They're routine. They're kind of part of everyday life. You don't particularly enjoy it. It's not a passion, but it pays the bills, 9 to 5. Okay, fine, right? I think we are not understanding how much of that is going to go away. I used one of these examples. I think I used the drivers in Europe, right? Driving a cab is boring, especially Uber. People, berate you, all kind of strange people come into your car, it gets dirty, whatever, right? But you do it because you're getting some money in your free time. If these things become mainstream, like the Volkswagen, what they're proposing, right? I think even the more mundane stuff that we used to do for some side income, or for a lot of people in India, this is main income, driving for Uber. I think all of this consistently gets peeled away from human beings. And we're truly concerned at 314 that I don't think we have a substitute for the average of our species, uh, to give them new things to do, right? There's a famous joke on Twitter now that, I'll bring up that slide. Yeah, this one. That, we wanted AI to do the jhadu pocha, kapda, all this history, etc., so that we can do art and we can read books and we can become intellectuals. But ChatGPT is exactly the opposite. They are reading all the world's blogs and world's textbooks and writing essays better than us, and we are stuck doing the manual work, jhadu pocha, etc., and now even that is going to go away, right, with the physical robots. So it's a real problem. I don't have an answer for you. I am very concerned. I think the only thing I am a little bit hopeful about is, every language model in existence today has digested human output to become basically a synthesizer of human language, right? they're not good at creating something new or beyond something they've already seen. Little bit of the generative stuff is it's still synthesizing what it's seen before and mashing things together. It's correlative. I do think an AGI, a real artificial general intelligence, will substitute even our innovation. And that's what concerns me a lot. And I think we're very close. I didn't put up one slide, but I do want your
You think
audience to see
it's
it.
by next year it's gonna come as one of the
I think I think they already have it. From what I'm hearing from my friends in the Bay Area, I think they already have it. And this came out of one of my conversations. I want to tell you how well, not so great it becomes. But I want to give you all of you. Everyone's heard of the singularity, right? Where we have
Yeah.
AGI, and it's a point in time where an intelligence now is truly alive, sentient. We don't know how to deal with it. That's actually only a quarter of the total singularity. That's what I want to show you. So AGI and something bad, a real intelligence, that's something that happens in some point in the future. Imagine a second point where we can simulate reality, like the Matrix, and we can't tell reality from a simulation, right? Where this is further away. This needs very advanced computing and so on, but that's something a lot of companies are working on. I already spoke about the brain-machine interface. So if you're plugged in with to an AGI that has put you in a reality simulation that you can't tell the difference of, suddenly you don't know if you're in the real world or not. That's possible. And fourth, the scariest thing is all these autonomous AGIs start to work as a society together. They learn to coordinate. The human species' biggest strength is we may not like each other, but for our survival, we have coordinated for 1 lakh years so far, as per our archaeological age, to build large societies, and we become the apex predator of our planet, right? Imagine AGIs coordinating, building their own society, and becoming the apex predators on top of us. So I think this is the real singularity. And I honestly don't have venture capital, public markets, all that nonsense goes away entirely when this is real, right? So it gets very strange. I honestly, I don't know how to deal with it. On the left is some of the technologies I thought I can invest in to profit from it, but profit for what? Profit, and then you become a slave. So, what do you do with the money anyway? It'll make your whole economic system irrelevant. So, yes, I mean it gets weird. That's why I don't put this slide up in my normal talk, but I have this slide in case someone asks how bad it gets. I'll move
Yeah.
to something nice like energy is free. This is nice.
And some of the people have also asked me that, like on a more practical note, like what does it mean for them? Like what can they do? Like if I am today working as a sales guy in a company for last 15 years, what can I do today to deal with this kind of, maybe not this extremely crazy future, which is probably few years down the
Yeah,
line, but
yeah.
what can I do right now to make sure that I am not completely irrelevant? And that's going to lead to problems of civil unrest, depression,
Oh
social
yeah,
problems.
yeah.
So
So
what is my
I think
so
that's a very good question, and I actually have some practical answers for that. I think which will be useful. I think everyone my age, I'm a millennial. I'm a very ungrateful, very typical millennial. I think Karthik is also a millennial. Let me tell you what millennials are doing. We have this concept called FIRE, financial independence to retirement. I advise everyone on this call, please go to the internet, Google what FIRE is, ask an AI to explain FIRE to you. That's the best thing. It does a very good job. Please set a number you need to make money wise. And I promise you, you don't need $1 billion. You don't need hundreds of millions. You will not know what to do with the money. Go through this exercise and you will realize you don't need more than 5, 8, 9, 10, 12, 15 crores in that range to live a very good life in India as of 2024, right? And today, I think the best thing that's happened to us is we don't have to wait for a future that gets weird. Let's just have a good life while we can have it. You today have hundreds and hundreds of companies where they're paying you 70 lakhs, 80 lakhs, 90 lakhs, a crore, 2 crores, 3 crores, even 3 crores, even, which is too much money in my opinion, but even for your annual pay. All right. So to answer that question, Karthik, if you're a sales guy today, you're in your early to mid 30s, just invest in yourself like an intellectual athlete. In the morning, in the evening, learn to use AI, learn the latest concepts, learn which tools can help you build better emails, convert clients faster, whatever. Become the best at your job. Just be an athlete, right? Just focus on taking as much money out of the company or employer as possible, right? And I'm telling you today, more and more employers are more and more cash rich, and they are desperate to retain talent for the long term. They are desperate. Everyone is desperate. Human labor is becoming the scarcest resource globally. That's why India is outsourcing more and more, and our economy growing so fast because the rest of the world is running out of people, to be honest, right? So just become the intellectual athlete, be the Virat Kohli, be the MS Dhoni of your sector, of your category, you will earn more money, switch jobs, don't have loyalty, get to your fire number, opt out. I'm telling you, that's what every smart millennial I'm talking to is doing. I think that's the only logical answer to whatever nonsense is going to come. You enjoy your life and prepare for the worst.
That's a very interesting perspective, Pranav. And also, one of the things from an Indian perspective, again, some of these technologies which you talked about.
Yeah.
See, in India, we have seen, and this is a slightly sensitive topic also. From a regulatory perspective, we have seen sometimes not the most congenial, even though you achieved the GDP numbers and everything you've talked about, but a lot more could be done if the regulatory environment is sort of more supportive and thought through. We have seen in the West, in some of the cases, regulations are thought through. Here, there's one step back, one step forward, two step backwards. Fintech, especially, we have seen how they have curtailed from every different angle. What are your views on that, and any recommendations that how even founders on this call can plan? Nobody can plan for regulation, but what advice would you give to folks here?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a big problem for everyone in industry. It's one of the biggest risks we have to constantly prepare for in our investments as well. I look at this chart, Karthik, and I draw some motivation. Right, India has been a terrifyingly badly planned economy from 1950 to 1991. We messed up big time. Right, our grandparents' generation, our parents' generation, this country stole from them, and we should never forget. It was horrible. After 1991, I showed you we compounded at 8.2%. And we not like we had great policy. We had scams, we had bad governments, coalition breaking. Everything that could go wrong has gone wrong, wars, etc., etc. We have still been the third largest contributor of unicorns in the world. I mean, all these countries you can argue more developed, better policy, etc., etc. We have crushed them, right? The only two countries that will do better than us for the foreseeable future are these two. So what I want to remind the audience is, yes, life is extraordinarily and unnecessarily difficult. It's getting better every year, but it has been. We should not forget that even despite that challenge, we have done well, right? Honestly, if you ask me, this 100 could have been 300 with better policy, more active involvement, etc., etc. But I think we have to start working together as a community to say we don't want to be treated like this anymore. Everyone here pays tax, right? And every year we are the villains, more tax, more burden, more regulation, more compliance. In every other country on the planet here, look at after Israel, right? All of these, forget Brazil, all these countries are developed countries where the taxpayer does not tolerate this stuff. You treat them badly, they will not tolerate it. They go to court, they class action, they make government life miserable, right? So we have to start also working together to say we don't want this kind of country, we demand better. And I think you're seeing now startups, for example, are forming committees and associations and industry bodies. They are making the regulators' life very difficult if they don't consult them before they announce something, right? And our regulators are learning. No one has fought them for 70 years. Suddenly, these guys are fighting them, right? So I think we have to start working together more. We have to build lobbies and shape regulation. We have to participate in regulation. I think startups have showed us it's possible and it works. In many things, they are not listening to startups. In many things, they have. So I think we are close to the point where it becomes better, more predictable. But it won't happen if we don't participate. That's why I think AIMA and so on, these bodies are very important. It brings together people. They can form these associations and actually help the government give us the kind of regulatory boundary that we need, right? Not something they arbitrarily think of. So I think that's happening. Of course, the regulators made great progress. I don't want to say it's all negative, but I think definitely we have to work harder on it.
Right. One of the other conversation threads, Pranav, again, taking in view from a lot of people who have joined us here on this session, even on YouTube and other channels. So a lot of people who are not in tech or deep tech, they feel missed out.
Yeah,
All this is happening, but like I have a standard brick and mortar business. Like, am I really missing out on everything? Or even
yeah.
from an investment perspective, is AI the only flavor of the season? If I'm not AI, does it mean end of life for me? Like, what is your advice to people who are not, let's say right now, hardcore into deep tech or AI?
Yeah, of course. I again look. Everyone wants to have started a unicorn, right? Every sector in India has a unicorn, right? Even tuition teachers are becoming unicorn company founders. Literally, physics wala. Okay, and he didn't build any tech. YouTube may go help people do ratta. That's it. That's all he's doing, and it's working, right? He's a unicorn. So what I'm trying to tell you is very simple. Our market has crossed a tipping point where, because of the sheer number of people, because they are all hungry for products, services, discretionary spending has gone up. I don't want anyone to feel like, unless you're a startup, unless you are some technology, unless you have some patent, you can't be valuable. Any business now can become a better version of itself, and think about one day going IPO, SME, IPO, whatever. There are so many pathways to scale, right? And even if you don't want to be IPO, there are larger companies who want to acquire good companies so that they sustain their market cap. That's becoming a real phenomenon. And I think you can sell to them and, start a family office, become an investor. Let's make money together. So that's happening everywhere now, right? From Haldirams to some steel fabricating company in outside Bangalore. Whatever industry you are in, everyone has felt that the tide has lifted. So I don't want people on this call to assume that we are working in India in the 90s or the early 2000s. It is a very different India. We are building a lot more. The capex cycle is now just started. It's going to peak very, very well. Private capex has started. Last year, India Inc. had its most profitable year ever, right? And all those profits are going to be reinvested in expansion and acquisitions and so on and so forth. So I want everyone to be very clear. Take full charge of the next 10 years and build the most value you can. Don't worry about AI and everything else. It's a little far away. I also want everyone to remember a little bit of urgency, and I'll put up this slide again. When I was in school, I remember very negative headlines about India, scams, this, that, everything. Forget it. I don't want to go into that. But we were under 2 trillion. We were not even in the top 10. I distinctly remember 1.6 trillion on the headlines. When I started my career in technology, we were at somewhere around 2.5, 2.6, right? We were still below UK and France. I want everyone to understand what it means having passed France, UK, Germany, Japan. What this means, we have been doubling in the span of me going from school to starting my career to now being 10 years into my 15 years into my career, right? This doesn't happen in many people's lifetimes, but we have gone through 3 doublings in 15 years. Now, I want everyone to remember, we are going from today, assume we are around 4, right? 4 to 8 is another doubling. It's going to take much longer from 8 to 16. The next doubling is much, much further away. The last big, great doubling is in front of us. That is the next 10 years. The doubling of GDP and a large economy, I'm not talking 1 to 2, I'm talking 4 to 8, right? This is an opportunity none of you can let go. If you miss this, you have missed the ride of a lifetime. The 70 years of torture your previous generations went through would have meant nothing. Please don't miss the next 10 years. So whatever business you're in, whatever format you're in, how much of capital you have, think carefully, allocate properly, spend your day productively, use all these AI things as tools. Don't become slaves to them. They are tools. Make them your tools, and don't miss the doubling. This is the decade I think all of us have to become wealthy and fire out of our lives.
Right. And on that note, just last question, because we also got a lot of students today on this session, Pranav, especially from Sambam University who are there. And a lot of them are anxious looking at all this, and they're like, okay, professionals is one end of spectrum, but if I'm today studying right now, it's an extremely uncertain future I'm looking at. So
Yeah.
what can I do now today as a student to prepare for this kind of real VUCA world? VUCA was a misnomer. I think today is real VUCA world. So what's your advice to students?
Yeah. So, I mean, look, I was in college in 2010, 2011, and I had to ask permission from some professor to go into the computer lab to Google what is Flipkart, what is Mu Sigma. They were coming to hire us, right? Placement. Year 3 or 4 in engineering college.
Right.
Today, no student has to ask for permission for anything. That miserable college education environment is totally gone, right? No one checks you on going to a computer lab or whatever. You don't need to go to a computer lab. Your computer is in your pocket. So what I want to tell you is, I may sound old. I'm 35 now, talking to students. I have come from absolutely being treated like a miserable peon in engineering college, and I'm using my words very carefully. Our teachers hated us. They didn't help us at all. Okay. And we still did very well for ourselves. We didn't take that nonsense as granted. We worked hard. We learned whatever we could. We figured out our lives, right? Don't be afraid. Have some confidence in yourself. Don't wait for permission. But I will say one thing has changed. I put this slide up for a reason. These technologies are weird. There is no textbook, no college in India teaching you this stuff, right? So in when I was in college, I could still get a job in Accenture, Infosys, whatever, and build a reasonable career and become reasonably wealthy and have a comfortable life. I think today, planning 20 years ahead, if you can specialize, if you're in engineering, do a master's. If you're in business, do a master's. If you're in law, do a specialization. Whatever stream you picked as a student, if you can specialize, please do. That will be intrinsically valuable. You won't be able to go back to college later. Don't believe all of that stuff. Finish your education, specialize as much as you can. I think a specialization is immensely valuable. If you can do it, it is definitely worth the investment. I think that is going to be one of your personal moats in a future where labor is, well, I would say more democratized, and the average job is disappearing every year, right? Don't be average, invest in yourself, be a specialist. I think that is maybe the most horizontal point of view I can share with you.
Awesome, Pranav. Just summarizing this discussion for everyone. In fact, a lot of people have asked me, can you share this slide? I don't know if it's
Yeah, it's on
possible.
our website. I'll send this to Rhythm. She can share it with everyone.
So a lot of people have personally asked me this. So you have the answer. You'll get the slides from Pranav. So yeah, I'll just summarize saying that I think future is extremely uh, positive slash negative depending on how you sort of look at it. But what Pranav has advised us is don't be a general average person, specialize, make that as your mode, be an athlete, and next decade is going to be an extremely critical one. So run fast, run far, make money, get wealthy, apply the FIRE principle, and pick up a number, be wealthy, make money, and then retire and enjoy life.
Karthik, I want to end with something. It's a very dramatic ending. I have to apologize to everyone, but I like dramatic endings. It's a few things I indulge in. I want to show you what is called a cap table. This is a list of every shareholder in a big startup.
Unacademy.
And oh, you guessed very well. That was Karthik, you're very unfair. The audience should be allowed to guess. Okay, anyway, this is, yes, I can't take the name, but it's a very well-known startup. It's a consumer company, etc., etc. I want you to look at this table on the right. This company's valuation is 24,200 crores. My God. Every time I see it, I have that reaction. Now, the founders own less than 10%. Okay, there are 4 founders. That is 2,250 crores. No one on this, our combined FIRE number will not be 2,250 crores. Okay, but that's how much the founders have created wealth for themselves. And look at every big investor, SoftBank, blah, 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 2,000, 1,000, 3,000, whatever, right? This is what the value in an end state looks like. This is a standard Indian unicorn. There are 114 of them now, right? Now you can argue, is it still a unicorn? Will it be bigger, smaller? Will it crash? Forget all that. You meet Gaurav Munjal and you ask him, boss, are you going to be unicorn? What is your value? He doesn't give a damn about your opinion. Okay, he made it. He'll never listen to you. He'll never talk to you. He doesn't want to listen to your feedback, advice, opinion, nothing, right? What I want to show you, why I want to show you this slide is because I want you to be very aware. None of these people expected to be this successful in 8 years, 9 years, 10 years, but they didn't give up. They worked their heads off. They gave up on everything else. They lost friends. They lost a lot of people. They were disloyal. They lied to some other people. Whatever, the drama is always there in everyone's life, right? The point is, even these kind of guys have made it. Okay. If some of you have been a customer of Unacademy, it's a very standard product. It's not like it's moving mountains and changing the future. That's the hope I want to give you. Take the positive from this. Okay. You don't need to be a 24,000 crore company to be successful. Even 200 crores and your life is made. Your generation's life is made. Right? If they can do it, you can do it. And it's worth it. The pain is worth it. Be an athlete. It always pays off. Specialize. I think I want to give everyone in this call hope that there is definitely a lot of very interesting things to be built. And this next 10 years, we will see something we've never seen before. Please take advantage of it.
Thanks, Pranav. I'm sure all these wisdom nuggets are going to stay with all of us. And thanks for also volunteering to share this content with our audience. I'm sure all of you had a great time. I see some of our YLC members also here on the call. And yeah, I think we look forward to your continued support and mentorship, Pranav. I know you've been a great mentor to me in some of these. I see your view has remained the same in the way you have advised me also. So it's great to see your thesis working out. And we are truly grateful to you, Pranav. I know you run a very busy schedule. The fact that you could take out some time with us today, we really appreciate it. And thank you everyone for joining us. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Thanks, Pranav, once again.
Thank you, Karthik. Thank you.